Hello again and welcome to my channel French ABCD, part of the series French from Scratch for Beginners. Today we're going to look at lesson 6b, which is the second part on French verbs, le verbe en français. The reference material is from the book Grammaire Française for the Anglophone student learning French, and the verbs are specifically found chapter 5, page 122 to 189. This is a whole gamut on French verbs, everything you need to know, but for your level, beginner's level that is, you don't need to know all of that at this stage. But you are more than welcome to go through them all. If you want to learn French, it is imperative that you know the difference between root and ending, le radical et la terminaison. A French verb is divided into two parts, le radical et la terminaison, the root and the ending. The root does not change its form, it remains the same. That's why it is invariable. It does not vary. That is the root. The ending, on the other hand, is the element that varies according to le nombre, that's singular or plural, la personne, that's first, second, and third person singular or plural, le mode et le temps, the mood and the tense. Let's take, for example, le verbe donner, D-O-N-N-E-R. I have color-coded it for you. ER here is the ending, which is la terminaison. D-O-N-N is the root or le radical. D-O-N-N in black here does not change. It will always remain the same. So, le radical est invariable, la terminaison ER est variable. Avec donne, donnons, donne, only the ending E-O-N-S, E-N-T will change. The root D-O-N-N will not change. So let's do some work together. It's going to give you some practice, and it's very important that you understand le radical et la terminaison. So could you identify the root and the ending of the following verbs? I'm going to do two for you, and you're going to do the rest. Let's start with the verb aimer. You see here, A-I-M-E-R. So where is the root and where is the terminaison, the ending? The ending is ER, and the root A-I-M is the le radical. It does not change. Only ER will change. If we look at the verbe dormir, c'est le verbe terminant en IR. This part here is the terminaison, the ending. It will change when you conjugate it. DORM will not change. It will remain the same. That is the root, that is invariable. Another important element when you're learning French verbs is les auxiliaires, the auxiliary verbs in English. So what is an auxiliary verb? It is also known as a helping verb in English. It is used with the main verb to help express the main verb's tense, mood, or voice. Let's look at two examples here. I am helping him. He had finished his meal when we arrived. So am would be the helping verb or the auxiliary. He had finished. Here it is also the helping verb, the auxiliary. Let's look at the French version now. So, les auxiliaires aident à conjuguer les temps composés des autres verbes. Do not worry about le temps composé for now. We're going to see it soon. Les auxiliaires aident à conjuguer les temps composés des autres verbes. Les deux auxiliaires les plus employés sont le verbe avoir et être. A piece of unsolicited advice: learn these two verbs by heart. They are going to help you enormously in your learning. Look at some example here. J'ai dormi from the auxiliary avoir, and here is your auxiliary avoir. It's right here. We're going to look at the way it is conjugated later on. For now, I just want you to understand what is les auxiliaires. Now, we looked at avoir, let's look at être now. Je suis parti. Suis is part of the auxiliary être. Now, verb avoir and être are not always auxiliary. Sometimes they have a different function. In this case here, j'ai une maison. J'ai is an equivalent, synonym of possession. Donc, j'ai une maison, je possède une maison, it is the same thing. Of course, in this case, it is not an auxiliary. It is simply a verb. Similarly, with the French verb être, it is not always an auxiliary. In this example here, il est grand, it expresses the existence of the state of being. So, il est grand, he is tall, et although from the verb être is not an auxiliary. It is simply a verb. Earlier on in the previous slide, we looked at temps composé. So here it is. I'm going to explain it to you. Temps composé et temps simple. Simple tense and compound tense in English. Le temps du verbe is divided into temps simple et temps composé. So the tense of French verbs is split up into simple tense and compound tense. What is it? So, simple tense are conjugated without the verb avoir and être, helping verbs. You remember we looked at earlier? Je lis, je lisais, je lirai. Here they are simple tense because we are not using the verb avoir or être as helping verbs. On the other hand, les temps composés are conjugated with the auxiliary avoir and the auxiliary être. Il a travaillé du matin jusqu'au soir. Il a travaillé. We are using the auxiliary avoir as helping verb here. So it becomes a compound tense, un temps composé. Je suis allé plus tôt que prévu. Suis is from the auxiliary être. We are using it as a helping verb in our sentence. Je suis allé. Therefore, suis is a compound tense, un temps composé. Okay? Now, how do we have temps composé? Very simple. We take auxiliary avoir ou être and we add the participe passé, the past participle. I've prepared for you a table for these two verbs that I would suggest that you learn them by heart. Avoir and être. For now, at your level of learning, I believe you should only focus on the présent, passé composé, and future simple. The present tense, the past tense, and the future tense. Okay? And this is the verb avoir. And here is your table. J'ai, for the present tense, j'ai, tu as, il, elle, ou on a. So, il a, elle a, on a. Nous avons, vous avez, ils ont, elles ont. Pour le passé composé, for the past tense, j'ai eu, tu as eu, il a eu, nous avons eu, vous avez eu, ils ont eu. J'aurai, pour le futur simple, tu auras, il aura, elle aura, nous aurons, vous aurez, ils auront. And now let's look at the verb être. Here it is. Présent, passé composé, futur simple. Pour le présent, je suis, tu es, il est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont. Okay? Be very careful. Here it's ils ont, here it's ils ou elles sont. Pour le passé composé, j'ai été, tu as été, il a été, nous avons été, vous avez été, ils ont été. Okay? Futur simple, je serai, tu seras, il sera, nous serons, vous serez, ils seront. What do you notice here? You see the present tense here. You take it and look at that. It is repeated here. And then you add été with it, and you have the passé composé. Here again, you have the same one. It is placed here, and then you add U, EU, and you have your passé composé. So it sounds difficult, but when you look at it at how it is structured, it is easy to understand why. Linking with what we've talked about earlier, especially the passé composé and the simple past in English, let's look at it now, how it's done. So, le passé composé est un temps composé, is a compound tense, I believe it's called in English, that expresses an action that took place in the past. It is a very, very frequent tense in French. Now, how do we have the passé composé? All we need to do is we need to conjugate l'auxiliaire être ou avoir in the present tense of the indicative, and we add the participe passé of the verb, as we saw earlier. So let's look at this example. Let's look at le passé composé du verbe manger. Manger means to eat. Il mange des raisins. What we do is we take the a, which is le présent de l'auxiliaire avoir, and then we add le participe passé du verbe manger. Le participe passé du verbe manger, c'est M-A-N-G-E accent aigu. Therefore, il mange des raisins. If we put that au passé composé, we're going to have il a mangé des raisins. Let's look at this example now. Pour former le passé composé de retourner, retourner is a verb that is conjugated with l'auxiliaire être. Il retourne chez lui au présent. We're going to put that now in the passé composé. It is il est retourné chez lui. Alors, présent de l'auxiliaire être, c'est EST, et le participe passé du verbe retourner, c'est retourner, R-E-T-O-U-R-N-E accent aigu. And what do we have? Il est retourné chez lui. It's very simple. All you need is practice it and follow the formula. For students who studied French in Canada in high school, this is going to bring back some sweet memories. We are looking at le passé composé avec l'auxiliaire être, the simple past with the auxiliaire être. Okay? The following verbs, and here I'm referring to these ones, they use the auxiliaire être when we conjugate them in the past, meaning the simple past, le passé composé. It should be noted, however, that le participe passé s'accorde en genre et en nombre avec le sujet, meaning when we use l'auxiliaire être, the participe passé, the past participle, agrees in gender, masculine or feminine, and in number, singular or plural, with the subject. Okay? So, how do we have le passé composé? We take le présent du verbe avoir ou être, and then we add the past participle. Here, obviously, we are dealing with verbs that are conjugated with être, therefore we're going to take le verbe être, le présent du verbe être, we add the past participle, and voila, you have your passé composé. Let's look at this example here. Aller. Elle est allée en ville. Keep in mind, elle is a subject, and this is the subject we are referring to here. It is singular, and it is feminine in gender. Okay? So, EST is l'auxiliaire être, aller, c'est le participe passé du verbe aller, the past participle of the verb aller. And here, you remember what we said? Le participe passé agrees in gender and in number. So, what is a gender? Feminine, we add an E. Is it singular or plural? It is singular, therefore it stays the same. If this were to be in plural, then it would have to have an S here, but of course that would also change. We're going to look at that later on. So, high school students in Canada, do you remember? They told you, how do you remember the verbs that are conjugated with être? Well, you use this acronym, Dr. Mrs. Van der Tramp. Okay? Now, I'll give you a quick example. The V here is for the verb venir. See how simple it is? And the T here is for the verb tomber. So all you need to do, remember Dr. Mrs. Van der Tramp, and each letter here corresponds to a verb here. Don't let this table scare you. It's very simple. I'm going to explain it to you and you'll see how easy it is. I have prepared a table. Tableau de conjugaison, premier groupe. Earlier we said we have 3 groups of verbs in French. The first one, the most common one, is ER, and ER, verbe régulier en ER. I've presented the table here into présent et passé composé, and I have split up the table right here. Let me see if I can draw a straight line. So, ça c'est le présent de l'indicatif, and here is the formula. This is the formula that I want to explain to you. These ones here, you remember what they are? They are your person. This is your first person in singular and your first person in plural. Je, tu, il, nous, vous, il ou elle. What you do here is you take the root of the verb, le radical du verbe, and then all you need to do for the first person singular, it should end with an E. So if you remember this, E, ES, E, ONS, EZ, ENT, all you need to do is fill this one here with a verb. And you have your présent de l'indicatif. Let's look at the verb aimer. I've prepared 2 verbs here for you, aimer and parler. Okay? Both are verbes réguliers en ER. What is the root here? You remember? Here is your root, AIM, and here is your terminaison. You remember what we said about the root? They do not change. They stay the same. So this is what I've done here. I've taken my root and I have plugged them here. And then what I've done is I've taken the ending for verbs ending in ER, just like here you remember we said EES, ONS, EZ, ENT, and I've plugged them here. So when you conjugate the verb aimer, présent de l'indicatif, this is what you have, j'aime. Keep in mind, vowel and vowel, we eliminate the first one, we replace it with an apostrophe, and again, this is a process of elision. Okay, so we'll do the same for parler. We take the root, which is P-A-R-L, we plug it here, and we take the ending for verbs ending in ER, E, ES, E, ONS, EZ, ENT. This reminds me of my days in school when we had to learn this by heart. Well, it helps. Let's look at the indicatif passé composé, the famous passé composé. I'm going to give you the formula first. You remember? Je, tu, il, elle, on, nous, vous, il. Here is your person, singular and plural. We take the verb avoir ou être, and then we take the participe passé, which is made up of the root plus accent aigu. Okay? So, again, we're going to take the verb aimer. What do we have? AI. And then we add aimer. We take the past participle and then we add the radical of the past participle plus accent aigu. Here it is. J'ai aimé, tu as aimé, il a aimé. Nous avons aimé, vous avez aimé, ils ont aimé. Okay? And the same goes for the verb parler. This is your person here, and this is here AI, AS, A. Remember the AS for the second person singular. And these, of course, are the auxiliaire, and here is the participe passé. We take the root, P-A-R-L, and we add the accent aigu. All you need is practice. Eventually, you will see the reasoning behind it. I guarantee you. Now we're going to look at the same verb, but a future simple. Okay, verbe terminant en ER. We're going to use the same example, verbe aimer and verbe parler, ending in ER. So, here again is your person. Je, tu, il, elle, at, which I didn't write, but it belongs here, as you already know. Nous, vous, il. We take the radical du verbe, the root of the verb, and all we need to do here is add ERAI for the first person singular, ERAS for the second person singular, ERA for the third person singular. Now, first person plural, ERONS. Deuxième personne, second person in plural, EREZ, and the third person in plural, ERONT. That's all we need to do. So this is your table, this is your formula. Let's plug it in now. We take the verb aimer. Once again, we take the root and we put it here. We take the ending and we transport it right over here. So, le futur simple du verbe aimer is j'aimerais, tu aimeras, il aimera, nous aimerons, vous aimerez, ils aimeront. Okay, now this and this one, they sound the same, but they are written separately. Keep in mind this one has an S, this one has a T. And the same for verbe parler. We take the root, we put it here, we take the ending, we put it here, and we have le futur simple du verbe parler. Je parlerai, tu parleras, il parlera, nous parlerons, vous parlerez, ils parleront. That's all there is to it. There is no rocket science here. I have done the same thing now with verb ending in the IR, the second group. The second group of verb, you remember I told you we have three of them. The first one we saw earlier, verb ending in ER. Now we're going to look at verb ending in IR. It follows the same example. Here we are. I have given you here this table for présent de l'indicatif du verbe régulier en IR, and this one is le passé composé. Same table, radical du verbe, and the ending. So the ending for verbs ending in IR is IS for the first person singular, IS for the second person singular, and IT for the third person singular. However, for the first, second, and third person in plural, it goes ESSONS. ESSEZ for the second person and ESSENT for the third person plural. All you need to do then is, if we take the verb finir, we are going to simply take the root, which is FEN. This is the root here, and then we put it here. We take the ending here and we put it right here. And the same goes for any other verb. If we take the verb réussir ending in IR, we do the same process. We take the root of the verb réussir, we put it here, and we take the ending, we plug it here. J'ai réussi, tu réussis, il réussit, nous réussissons, vous réussissez, ils réussissent. And for passé composé, it follows the same format. There is nothing different with it. All you need is a little bit of practice. Now for verbs ending in ER, here is your future simple. It is the same. Here is a table showing the person, the root of the verb, and here is your ending. ERAI for the first person, ERAS for the second person singular, ERA third person singular, ERONS for the first person in plural, Second person in plural, ER-EZ, and ER-ONT for the third person in plural. Once again, you take your verb finir, you take your root, it goes here, you take your ending right here, and you just take it and you plug it right here. And the same for the verb réussir. This is your future simple. Very simple. And now we're going to look at the third group of verbs in French, verbs ending in RE, ER, and OER. Here is your table. We're going to look at présent et passé composé. Le présent is right here. Here is your person. Here is for the verb rendre, your root, and here is your ending, meaning the terminaison. Première personne au singulier, you have to add an S here. Second person, an S. The third person, you see it's blank here, is because it does not take anything. It stays in its same root format. And the first person plural, ONS, second person plural, EZ, and the third person, ENT. And it follows the same for the verb sentir and here for the verb recevoir. Okay? Keep in mind there is a CG here because it follows the O. You want to put the CG so you have the sound of S. And for le passé composé, it is the same thing. Here is your auxiliaire, and then you have your participe passé. Participe passé of the verb rendre is rendu, so you would have j'ai rendu, tu as rendu. And here for the verb sentir, le participe passé c'est senti, and for the verb recevoir, le participe passé c'est reçu. These two here remain the same. All you need to do is change the participe passé of the verb. And here you go. And finally, we're going to look at le futur simple of the verb rendre, sentir, et recevoir. Once again, I have prepared the formula for you. Here is your person. Here is your root. And here is your ending. Okay, for the verb rendre, all you have to do is take your root, add your ending, RAI, RAS, RA, DRO, and S for the first person plural, DREZ for the second person in plural, and for the third person plural is DRONT, je rendrai, tu rendras, il rendra. Keep in mind, nous rendrons, vous rendrez, ils rendront. Very simple. And you follow the same thing for the verb sentir. And here is your root. And you add here T-I-R-A-I. And for the verb recevoir, keep in mind, here is your root. Notice here there is no CG like in the previous example that we saw. Why? Because it is not followed by an O. Okay? Only when it is followed by O, then you give it the CG to give it the sound of S. Go back to the first lesson about CG and it will give you the example of when we use the CG. Okay? And that's it, I think. Indeed, this is it. So, please like, subscribe, and comment, of course. And merci. Thank you very much for your attention. And come back again for more lessons. I hope you have learned something today. Thank you.